Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. We talk about the problems people face in their day to day lives. Let's start with the video. Friendly advice to anyone reading this. There's no need to be friendly with your ex spouses and their families because you'll probably end up regretting it as I did. My ex wife and I had such a sweet relationship that our terrible breakup seems like a literal nightmare. We were friends in high school who drifted apart when we went to college in different states. We both dated people in college and barely remembered each other when we met at the wedding of a mutual friend of ours from high school. We started talking at the wedding. I asked her out and we never looked back. It was the sweetest thing ever, and I felt so proud of the fact that we were soulmates who had been in each other's lives since we were kids. Now I feel like the biggest sentimental fool in the world. Let me tell you about my ex-wife. Like a normal human being, I was over my exes when I met her and had no intention of ever being with anyone else again. The same can't be said about her, though. Barely a year into our marriage, she met an old college boyfriend on a work trip and ended up sleeping with him. She continued for a few months before I finally caught her in the act. What followed was the most awful divorce possible. Truly a legal nightmare. The worst part is that we have a baby boy, so the custody battle was brutal. At the time of the divorce, he was just only 11 months old. Courts usually prefer the mom in custody cases, especially when the child is so young, so I had to fight tooth and nail for shared custody. I now have joint custody with my ex-wife. The alimony was another nightmare that I won't even get into right now because it's not relevant to what this post is about. To make things worse, my ex-wife got engaged to that guy almost as soon as we got divorced. That was a few months ago, and they got married shortly after that. My son is honestly the only thing that keeps me going these days, and I have done everything in my power to spend as much time as possible with him. This makes my mother-in-law worse. So I take care of my son over the weekends, and my ex-wife and I do our best to co-parent despite our hatred for each other. So it's not uncommon for me to spend more time with my daughter when my ex-wife is busy, or for her to do the same. This system has worked for us until the recent entry of my ex-mother-in-law in the equation. My ex-mother-in-law lives in a different state, and she recently came over to stay with my ex-wife and her husband because her house got flooded and the wiring got badly damaged, so she needed a place to stay until the house is fixed. She also wanted to spend more time with her grandson. Fine for me. I don't mind her spending time with my son when they're all at my ex's house anyway. The annoying part is that she's going back in a few weeks and keeps pestering me to let her spend time with my son at my place as well so they can bond. I've told her multiple times that I'm not comfortable with that, but she has been pretty relentless. My ex had been her usual annoying self and told me that it was up to me what I say to her mom. Last week, my company had some major layoffs after a change in management. I'm lucky that didn't leave my job, but for the next few months, work is going to be insane. I've told this to my ex-wife, and we talked about the baby's living arrangements whenever I'll have to work on the weekends. I had one weekend off before work kicked in. My son was with me when I got urgently called in to work. I tried calling some babysitters, but no one was available on such short notice. I called my ex, and she didn't pick up. I didn't know what to do. My boss was getting impatient, and I did not want to make the new management think I was unreliable. I saw no other options and called my ex-mother-in-law. I asked her where my ex was, and she said that the happy couple had gone out somewhere. I swallowed my pride and hatred for that entire group of people and asked my mother-in-law if she could babysit for a few hours while I went to work. She was delighted and said that she would come over immediately. I was annoyed but still grateful. It's not like I had any other options, and I knew she was good with the baby. I was so damn wrong. Looking back, I think I would have been better off risking my job than letting her be with my son. Anyway, she came over and told me to go off to work without worrying because she would be there for her grandson. I just shrugged and told her that I'll be back as soon as possible and asked her multiple times to call me if she needed anything at all. I knew I would keep an eye on my daughter through the baby monitor. It's connected to my phone, so I wasn't very worried. So I left for work. I immediately went to a meeting with some international clients, and it had been a couple of hours before I had time to even look at my phone. The first thing I did was check the baby monitor. The crib was empty. This was all right because the baby sometimes woke up from naps and played during this time. I checked the camera on his play area in the living room, and guess what I saw? My mother-in-law was asleep on the sofa, and my son was playing with my ex and her new guy. He was on his lap, giggling. On my couch, in my own damn house. I could practically feel my blood boil. What were these people doing in my house? I told my boss that I needed to go home to my baby and that it was an emergency. I'm sure under ordinary conditions they wouldn't have let me go, but I think they could see how angry and determined I was. I immediately went home. I rang the doorbell and my ex-wife opened the door, looking like a deer caught in headlights, absolutely terrified. I ignored her and walked into the living room and grabbed my son from that other guy. My ex came into the room looking terrified. I asked her what the hell was going on. She told me to calm down and that she can explain everything. She told me that my mother-in-law got a little wine drunk when the baby was napping and didn't know what to do when he woke up earlier than expected. She was too drunk to handle him by herself and called up my ex asking for help. My ex was on a date with her husband and they rushed in. She told me that she thought they would be gone by the time I came back and that I would never find out. I was absolutely furious. I told her I have every right to know what was going on with my son in my own house. I had gone out on a limb and agreed to let my mother-in-law babysit after she had annoyed me relentlessly about bonding with her only grandchild. If getting drunk and jeopardizing my son's safety was her idea of babysitting, I had nothing to say to her. Not to even mention that she had the audacity to invite my cheating ex-wife and the guy she cheated with into my home in my absence. It took everything in me not to scream my lungs out at them because I didn't want to scare my son. To make matters worse, my outstanding ex-mother-in-law was barely out of her drunk power nap as I was saying all this. I told my ex-wife to get the hell out of my house before I called the police on all of them, and they left in a hurry. She tried to reason with me and get me to calm down, but I didn't want to listen to a single word. I'm still shaking with anger as I'm writing all this. I want to sue my mother-in-law for negligence, but I don't know if that would be going too far. Not to mention, I really don't want to get in more legal trouble after all that happened during the custody battle. Thanks for taking my side, guys. To answer a few questions, no, I obviously didn't know anything about my ex-mother-in-law and her possible drinking problem. I don't even know if she has a drinking problem, but I mean, would she really do what she did if there wasn't something more deep-rooted involved? I really don't think so. I would ask my ex-wife, but I obviously don't want to talk to her right now. This whole thing has also happened at such a complicated time in my career. Any other time I would have taken time off work and kept my son with me till my ex-mother-in-law is out of my ex's house, but that's just not possible right now. I still am considering suing my ex-mother-in-law for negligence, but for reasons that I've mentioned in my original post, I'm really wary of any legal procedures. I'm not letting this go in any way whatsoever, though. After I calm down a bit, I intend to have a serious conversation with my ex-wife. If her mother does have a drinking problem and she didn't inform me, knowing that I was leaving our son alone with her, she will definitely pay for it. I've had the most horrifying conversation with my ex-wife. I confronted her about what happened last weekend, and I am considering taking legal action against her mother because I'm really not okay with whatever happened. She broke down crying, saying that her mom has been struggling with drinking and she couldn't handle the stress of a lawsuit, and begged me not to do this. I don't know what she expected by saying this, but it just made me angrier. It proved my suspicions that she knew that it was not safe, but allowed her mom to spend time with our son alone. I told her that this made her equally guilty and she would definitely pay for it. I told her I have proof, thanks to the baby cam, and that it would be an easy win because of how serious the issue is. I guess she felt backed into a corner because, as a last-minute plea to win me over, she said she would give up our joint physical custody and give me sole physical custody if I don't sue her mom. I've been really conflicted ever since. I know I shouldn't look past what my ex-mother-in-law did, but the baby is safe and I can guarantee that she won't ever be alone with him again. On the other hand, having sole custody would be a dream come true. If I have my son with me, I wouldn't even mind looking for a different job that will allow me to spend more time at home or even try a work-from-home job. I'm in tech, so that really wouldn't be that difficult at all. Any advice would be appreciated. Thanks to those of you who responded. I've decided to accept my wife's deal. Transferring custody is a complicated process, but I'm up for it. I can't wait to have my son live with me full time. I'm already thinking of what changes I need to make around the house. I'm glad you're happy about accepting your ex-wife's little agreement, but I think you shouldn't have let this go so easily. Maybe make it a condition that your ex-mother-in-law is not allowed to be in your son's life until she has gotten the drinking under control. Just a suggestion. It warms my heart to see the love you have for your son. Don't listen to people trying to make you feel guilty about taking your ex's deal. As you said, your ex-mother-in-law will never get a chance to harm the baby again, and you get sole custody, which is awesome. I'm 17, female. My aunt, 49, female, is 7 months pregnant with a baby girl. Me and my mom flew down to visit her and host a baby shower for her, during which there was a game where people tried to make the weirdest baby name. It wasn't meant to be a hurtful activity, so no real names. More of a ha-ha, wouldn't it be funny to name your kid Imperator Nero Claudius, Divi Claudius, Filius Caesar Augustus Germanicus? It was all going well until my aunt made an offhand comment about my own name being weird. After reading all of the names, she laughed and said, "Well, if I want a weird name, I can just do what OP's mother did," in front of all the guests. Me and my mom kind of paused and asked her what the hell she meant by that. My aunt responded that while my name is certainly unique, she wouldn't want to name her baby something so difficult and weird. Now, to give her some undeserved credit, my name is long. I'm biracial, as well as her kid be, and my parents decided to give me very ethnic names from both countries along with a hyphenated last name. Is it annoying sometimes? Yes, but me and many people who have met me think that my name, while long, is very pretty. Things wrapped up pretty soon after that, with my mom taking me aside and explaining that while it was a bitchy thing to say, we cannot yell at her because God knows we don't need more family drama. Fine, I won't yell. But there was no way I was letting that slide. So for the rest of our stay, I decided to help my aunt out and make sure her baby's name wasn't weird and complicated by suggesting some common names that everyone knows. For example, Clorox, Speculum, Cyanide, Marijuana, Windows 11, Boaty McBoatface, McDonald's. Apparently yelling wasn't the only way I could have made family drama, because Lord, did it come down. Her husband even made some of his own choice names for me. However, after getting home yesterday, I began realizing that it might have not been the nicest thing to do to a pregnant woman over a small comment that I could have easily brushed over. So, Reddit, AITA, info. Yes, my 49-year-old aunt is pregnant. She did IVF with her husband. She's also postmenopausal. It was not an accident. I'd say ESH if she hadn't insulted your actual name in front of a whole party. If she had said, I don't want a name that is complicated and hard to spell, pronounce, like so and so's name, because it may be hard for the kid at a young age, it would be rude still, but far less pointed. She shamed your name, not just to you. So while petty to give such names, I think it's justified and many would have reacted even worse. So NTA. Windows 11 is my fav. I would have brought in words from other languages that may sound pretty but mean awful things, which could be bad if they didn't look them up and chose one, lol. NTA, some pushback here is appropriate. But you did say she's 49? Holy moly, that's a high-risk pregnancy. It's entirely possible it's hitting her pretty hard, and that has something to do with how disagreeable she is. Also, at 49, a pregnancy is either very, very planned or a totally unexpected thing, and she might be having big feelings about it either way. Try not to take it too personally. That doesn't mean you should have to put up with it, just that maybe it's okay not to let it bother you. I feel like crap right now, but here we go. I work for a pretty pretentious company where everyone tries to kiss the boss's ass. We have a huge holiday party every year. It is always a fancy venue, cocktail attire, and great food. When I first started working there, it was something I was excited to take my wife to, but it is now something I dread. My wife gets herself so stressed over it that she is miserable for weeks leading up to it. She agonizes over what to wear, always goes over budget, and spends the whole day on hair and makeup. Then, when we get there, she honestly embarrasses me. And again, I feel like crap. Every year, she tries so hard to befriend my boss's wife, who clearly wants nothing to do with her and literally looks at her husband like, save me. I always feel my boss is laughing at me. Then, she spends the next couple of days making fun of my boss's wife and calling her a bitch, which I'm terrified is going to get back to them because you know how gossip works. It's all very hard for me to watch. I have tried to talk to her about her behavior, but she gets defensive and nothing changes. This year, I just couldn't take it. I told her there wasn't going to be a party, just a lunch during the workday for employees only. My plan was to go alone and make an excuse for her. I hate lying, but I felt I'd given her multiple chances to change her behavior. So what am I going to do? At this point, she is hurting my career and hurting herself mentally. Unfortunately, she found out and is obviously furious. She feels I took away a huge night from her and is very hurt that I am embarrassed by her behavior. ESH. She is hurting your career, full stop. Causing problems with your boss's wife, even unintentionally, is an issue, and one you have pointed out to her and she chose to ignore and continue with. She is an for not working on fixing her behavior to not cause problems. However, you lied to her. It was to save her feelings, sure, and I commend you for that. But you knew that she really loved dressing up for this event. You needed to tell her that she wasn't coming this year, but exchange it for a date at a very upscale restaurant instead so that she can take time to get dolled up. Based on your post, the chance to look good and show off in front of others may be what she really wants. NTA verdict isn't going to help piece back the damage to the marriage that her behavior and your lying has done. She's going to resent you moving forward, but maybe she won't want to go in the future, so you sort of win in that regards. I guess you thought you were sparing her feelings, as well as your job, but ended up hurting her worse than you being up front. It sounds like she's trying way too hard and is doing the exact opposite of helping you. When speaking to her, were you vague, speaking in general terms on why her behavior was inappropriate, or were you giving specific examples? This wasn't a conversation that you should have been dropped and is a conversation that should be done when everyone is level-headed, not during the days you're annoyed with her behavior or while she's winning about the boss's wife, because it was a consistent pattern. ESH. You for lying. Work holiday parties are work. You should have either talked to your wife about expectations of her at the party and help her with it, or talk to her that you'd rather just make an appearance for an hour or so by yourself. Lying is what is wrong. Your wife needs to understand that this is a work event and the expectations are usually different than family events. Boss's wife, for not realizing that she, especially a spouse of the person in charge, needs to be better at dealing with certain people and situations and doesn't need to be saved. A few thought out lines and she can interact with people and move on.